Some American farmers are stranded. Now, mind you, they did vote for the current administration, but they did think that their vote would actually impact the way the business was going or the way they were receiving some benefits. They just thought, hey, we want to get rid of the Mexicans, we want to get rid of the immigrants, just get rid of them, right? But not thinking that getting rid of the immigrants was going to affect them. And now there's a possibility of food insecurity, food shortage, and it's all because they voted for the person that they wanted. I'll let these videos do the talking.
We're here. We are here at the FAFO stage. This is really bad. And if you appreciate my content, please engage with this video. I'm just going to read this to you. Multiple Texas farms shut down after almost 100% of workforce vanishes overnight. In a stunningly swift overnight change, some Texas farm operations had to shut down after losing virtually all of their workforce, an exodus triggered by the increase in immigration raids and increased enforcement. The ripple effects of these raids are the gift that keeps on giving and will be felt nationwide. Unpicked crops are now left unharvested. Livestock were left untended, and rural economies are on edge. The story isn't just a tale of woe for Texas farms. It's a warning for American agribusiness, food prices, and communities that keep food on our plates. I need you to share this with every Republican you know. And you don't even need to wait for their response. They just need to know what's happening. And this is part of my line of work. I deal with commercial farmers, including these small farmers, as clients, and I cannot tell you how this is the beginning of the complete collapse of our economy under this Project 2025 administration that doesn't know what they're doing. You talk about the immediate shuttering of farms, because this is actually what's happening with the food, with the harvests that are lying there completely rotting. That is a loss of food to local food distributors, local grocery stores, local restaurants, hospitals. They sell their harvests, all sorts of vegetables, to businesses within the state of Texas. This is where you can go into your local grocery store, and now you're going to see hardly any vegetables or fruit, depending on what they're growing, or a shortage of meat. This is what's going to happen. Now, all of the other industries that support farming, you've got local pesticide, herbicide, fertilizer suppliers that are just, their sales are going to plummet. These farmers aren't going to be purchasing that. You've got H-2A workers who are now gone, migrant workers who are now gone. They were paying taxes. Even if they didn't have social security numbers, they were given tax numbers, tax ID numbers. So now you got millions of dollars just poof, gone overnight from these Texas communities. You've got trucking companies that are hired to haul the...
Dear God, if you've never listened before, Texas is reporting that numerous farms are shutting down. They have no workforce to bring in the harvest. So what does that mean? We're going to have less food available. What does less food mean? Higher prices for what is available. Even the cattle has been left unattended. Now they're gathering people up to make a workforce. Don't even doubt that for a second that that's what they're working on here. However, there's no people now. Now, as we come into fall and everything is ready to be picked and processed, we are in a massive FO moment for the nation. So if you have not stocked up on basic food items that will help you survive, God help you, because you're going to need it. I don't know what more to say.
I've never in my life faced a time, and I've been farming since 1993 on my own, where the outlook is so bleak financially.
In a year where crops have been tested by Mother Nature, the toughest test may lie just ahead for farmers. Harvest begins across Arkansas, but for farmers like Cliff Carter, the challenge will happen after.
This is the first time in my life farming that I still have crop in my bins that I can't sell.
Despite a good crop this year, Carter says the prices they get for those crops won't cover expenses. He's not alone. Ag America reported in March the agricultural trade could reach a record trade deficit. Carter says the price for crops has dropped drastically.
Basically, what we're getting out of a bushel of corn or a bushel of rice would be like you making $5 an hour and trying to pay your bills at home. In today's time, we can't do it.
Carter says farmers face challenges from several angles. Earlier this year, tariffs were imposed on U.S. exports. Carter said while businesses can fight tariffs by raising their prices, the reality is not the same for farmers.
We can't do that. Our price, the price is set for us is global market.
He said those tariffs are costing farmers their biggest customers.
Mexico and China are the two biggest rice buyers for the United. They buy more rice off of us than anyone, and when they stop buying rice, we have nowhere to go with the rice.
Carter said it's not just tariffs. The rise in global competitors like Brazil is also hurting farmers. Selling domestically is an option, but
I was offered $3.90 a bushel for rice last week to make dog food out of. That won't even cover my seed cost hardly.
Agriculture is a $20 billion industry in Arkansas. Carter fears that failure for farmers won't just stop with them.
It won't be a trickle-down effect. It will be like flushing a toilet if the ag industry collapses.
Carter says farmers need help from the government to help bridge the gap between the cost of producing crops and selling them.
So we're now seeing multiple farm closures in Texas. With all of the discussions that were had about the effects of the deportation on farms and the service industry, we're talking planting season, which is all around March, April. The season where you're taking care of your plant, you're making sure there's no, weeding, bugs eating it, all of the things, birds, rabbits, all of that. So you got to take care of that. And now we're in harvest season, very near harvest season. But there's nothing, no executive order, nothing to remedy this when the remedy should have happened on or around May, latest June. So all of these farms are now closing down because of this, because there's no one to harvest. There was no one taking care of the harvest, the plants, our food. The food we need to eat, our food. There's no one taking care of it. And guess what? That means that we have to import, which means we have to pay more because there are high tariffs.
American farmers are in big trouble. They are losing money like water right now because their costs are going through the roof while the amount that they're getting for their crops is falling. Increasing costs and decreasing revenue spells disaster. But the situation gets even worse. Right now, American farmers are about to produce a record crop of soy and corn. Now, guess who usually buys a lot of American soy? That's right, China does. But thanks to this trade war that the U.S. has insisted on having against China, China has started getting its soy elsewhere, not from American farmers. So American farmers have a lot of soy and nowhere to sell it, pushing prices down here and making them go into the red, losing a lot of money. And to make matters worse, fertilizer costs are shooting through the roof. Farmers are bleeding money right now, and there looks to be no end in sight. To all the people who cheered this trade war on, hurting American farmers, you just made the D3 list, a podcast about dumb, desperate, and diabolical business decisions.
It's Joe from Georgia. So we're getting ready for the first domino to fall, and we know what happens after the first one falls. Well, the state of Nebraska, the governor, Jim Pillen, has asked the federal government for help because they're not going to be able to pay their bills this year. And here's the problem in Nebraska. They had over a $2 billion contract with the Chinese government to export soybeans to China. Well, out of that $2 billion, they've canceled all the contracts. So out of that $2 billion, $350 million was state revenue taxes. They're not getting any of that. And the governor also goes on to say that because the migrant farmers weren't able to work in Nebraska this summer, that those people didn't pay their taxes either. And the farmers who already have crops in the ground, folks, they've already spent their money. They're going to need help too because they're not getting any money from the contracts anymore. So Nebraska is the first state. And when you look at the Midwest, you're probably looking at Kansas, you're looking at Iowa, South Dakota, all of those places that are large exporters of grains to China and depend on migrant farm labor. They're not going to be able to pay their bills either. So here's the first one to fall. But of course, as we do know, a certain person in a certain house in Washington, D.C. at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, they know all about bankruptcy. I'm sure they'll be able to help.
It's about $250,000 to $300,000 worth of revenue.
Just left to rot.
Yeah, which is one thing, but it's also lost revenue for the workers that would have been able to pick them had they been here.
Oregon farmer Ian Chandler says about half his usual crew didn't show up this season, leaving him scrambling to backfill dozens of positions.
You're calling them, I assume, individually
Yes.
and saying,
Yes.
what's going on?
Yes. And so
what are they telling you?
Well, in the beginning of the season, it coincided, unfortunately, with a lot of really strong immigration enforcement down in Southern California, where our workforce comes from. And that kind of had a chilling effect on people wanting to move.
While Ian says his workers are hired with what seemed to be a valid ID and work papers, fear of ICE raids kept many of them from traveling north this year.
All right, guys, we've come to the end. Do you think they deserve that they're stranded, or should they have voted better? Like, what is your thought on this entire topic? It's very disturbing, but yeah, this is what happens in life. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. My name is Janita Meyer. I realized that I don't do intros anymore. I'm so sorry. But yeah, follow me on all my social media pages at Janita Meyer. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.